supposed to take the makers off the table, but it's too late now. Might as well take a sip.
I did not see that coming.
Oh my
it's
God.
the lore. It's the mystique of it all.
We're still doing it. We haven't been cut off yet.
Holy shit. Good job, buddy. Nice job, Daniel. Good job, man. Keep that rod bent. Keep that rod bent.
I mean, people used to get so scared of them, they had to shoot them.
Yeah, that's true.
But because you literally can't stop thinking about it. You know, you can't scratch the itch enough. Welcome back to another episode of the Spot Burn Podcast. Today you got Josh Schmelzer, Dan Donovan from Musky Fool. We're excited to be here. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. This will probably be our first episode of the 2024 year in terms of what goes live. So excited. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But we got a lot to cover. We have some interesting current events. We're going to talk about muskies and bathtubs. We're going to talk about ice fishing for muskies. Josh had quite the last month of 2023 fishing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to look a little bit ahead into 2024. So we're going to try and conquer quite a bit today. Looking forward to getting into it. Glad you're here, buddy. It's always fun to have you in the studio.
Likewise, Dan. I love being here.
Yeah.
It's magical.
We seem to always change up a little bit of the recording, the technical piece.
Yes.
It's always a new, this time we're in person, this time we have people on the web call, this time we have 3 people in the studio. It's always something keeping us on our feet.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. But first, before we get into all the fun stuff, special call out to our sponsors, Cortland Line Company, Stealthcraft Boats. Thank you so much. Go check them out. If you're looking for some new fly line, we got a full run of Cortland in the shop. Stealthcraft Boats. We don't sell them, but we love them. Great river boats, hooligans. Josh was using his hooligan to the very last minute of the season this year. We're going to hear about some stories from that. She was a productive watercraft in December. Current events. I guess we have a couple fun ones that I want to talk about, but first worth giving a shout out. This will probably get launched sometime in early January. In the spring season, January, February, and March, we at Musky Fool kick off quite a busy show season, trade shows, events. There's quite a lot going on. We have fully updated on the website, but just to hit a couple of them, we will be at 2 Musky Expos this year. We're coming back to the Milwaukee and Chicago Expo. Chicago's in a couple weeks. We're getting ready for it this week, getting everything packed up and ordered. Milwaukee's in February. We are throwing our own event, courtesy of the Eau Claire Fly Tying Club and your man Bam Bam right here. The Fly Tying Rendezvous, 3rd annual Fly Tying Rendezvous. It's going to be the biggest it's ever been. Gunnar Brammer is going to be joining us, which is super exciting.
So excited.
That was kind of sweet.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he's very stoked about it, too.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous asking him, but I'm glad he said yes.
I'm glad he said yes. It's going to be a fun event. Menominee, Wisconsin. That is March 2nd on our website, if I got that wrong.
Correct. Yep.
Saturday, March 2nd at a really cool brewery. We're going to have a ton of fun stuff. There's going to be a boatload of awesome prizes, raffles, contests, hanging out with good fly tires and fishy folk from really all over. The hope is that people come from all over northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, southern Wisconsin. We've had folks drive up from Illinois, Indiana, Iowa in the past. So all are welcome. You don't have to tie flies. You can just be an interested, curious party. It's gonna be sweet. Lots of knowledge sharing, lots of community, lots of good drinking, beer, non-beer, non-alcohol products if you're into that. Pizza.
Yep. Oh, some of the best pizza around for sure.
And we got a few tricks up our sleeves as far as prizes go. So it's free admission. There'll be probably a Facebook event to RSVP to if there's not already. But again, go check that out. What else do we got? Fly Fishing Film Tour will be back in Madison. I believe that's in March. We got the Musky School, Cap City Musky School, putting on a big event. That's always a fun one. And then we got tying events. Eau Claire Fly Tying Club and Drinking with Scissors are really the big two in our areas. One in Eau Claire, obviously, for the Eau Claire Fly Tying Club. You guys meet weekly.
Correct, yep.
That's weekly. All of those are on the website. Drinking with Scissors, I believe, has 5 more events coming up. So, again, all on the website. Always good to see folks come out to those. We appreciate all the support for both of those events. It's really just about the community at that point. You know, there's no... Kyle puts on the Drinking with Scissors. Josh is kind of the organizer with the Eau Claire Fly Tying Club. So, really out of the goodness of their hearts. So, come on out. What else, event-wise? Are you looking forward to show season? Where's your head at? Ready to go?
I am looking forward to show season. It's so fun getting out in the wild, interacting with everybody and seeing familiar faces and getting to travel a little bit. There's just like a lot of energy there.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. You get to see what the new trends are, the new musky lures. And we're coming from the fly world, obviously, but we're fully immersed in this gear world. So it is really fun to be there and bridge the gap and see what everyone else in the industry is doing. And just, we're all there, common denominator. We're all there because we love
Exactly.
muskies. So it's great.
Exactly.
How about you, Dan?
Same. I feel like from the business side of things, it's our third year doing the trade shows. I feel the most organized we've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
We have a plan. We're not changing up the booth. All the variables that go into it are pretty straightforward this year, as straightforward as they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Still got to make it down to Chicago with a boatload of stuff in a truck in winter in the Midwest.
Yes.
So your fingers are always crossed on that end. But yeah, I think overall smooth sailing there, which I think gets me more excited because going into them, there's always so many things to worry about and make sure this is done and this is ordered and this is packed and prices are put on it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the fact that we're even talking about that 3 weeks ahead of the show is way better than it's ever been.
Yes.
So ask me again maybe Thursday as we're leaving. But generally, I'm pretty excited. I got another seminar that'll be Sunday at the Musky Expo. I'm excited for that. We're going to try and dial it up a little bit, get a little bit beneath the surface on fly fishing for muskies. I've done that the last 2 years is frankly more of a just hype, talking about how we're catching them and showing big fish caught on flies, because I think some of the audience, when you're in it, like we're in it, when you're in it, like the folks that probably listen to this podcast are in it, of course you can catch them on a fly rod. But for a lot of the folks we might see at that seminar or at that expo, it's still new.
Mm-hmm.
This year, however, if you've been to the seminar before, no, it's going to be a lot different material. I'm going to try and break down a little bit more of the tactics, literally boat positioning on the water with a fly rod, how to, maneuver and use the boat in a river the right way, where we're, hopefully some diagrams targeting them in certain ways and where you want to cast and how you want your line to set up so there's least amount of slack in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of the finer points, which I'm excited to see how that goes, as opposed to just, here's how you tie a leader. Yes, we do catch them on flies, like some of the basics. So
yes,
we'll see.
Cool.
We'll see. I still have to start that presentation, but it's,
Yeah, you're just
It's up
shoring
here.
it up in your head.
If anyone has any feedback on that and they think that's trash or they want to see more of that, now's the time to get your say on what the seminar is going to look like.
Speak on up, folks.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Exactly. I'm excited to talk to you about your December because that was crazy. We had unseasonably warm weather. We're going to spend a lot of time on that. But before we do, a couple interesting things that occurred
Yes.
in the fishing world, but one at a macro level and then one literally in our store at a micro level. So if you haven't seen it, I think this went out prior to the holidays. Yeti did a big marketing push, Yeti Coolers, who we are not affiliated with by any means. Basically encouraging everybody to do the right thing this holiday season and throw your Christmas tree in your local water body as a fish crib.
Yes, just tie it to a
Yeah.
cinder block and throw it off the boat.
Recycling Christmas trees. I don't know. What do you think? I'm a little hesitant to get too prickly about it, but
Yeah, I mean,
seems like a misfire.
from
a
both
little bit.
sides of the spectrum here, you could argue it's a great campaign. It's genius from a marketing standpoint.
It's got hallmarks there for sure.
Yep, that was good. From the conservation, from the looking out for our watersheds, being stewards of the fishing community and all that stuff, I don't think it really resonated with the right message of, just go out to your local water bodies and start dumping Christmas trees everywhere and God knows whatever else. But I don't know.
The number of Christmas trees. They did,
They had
in their
a
defense, they
disclaimer or
did have a
something?
disclaimer and they did work with Fish and Wildlife agencies, specifically, I think in this case related to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did encourage everybody at the bottom of the article to, contact your DNR or Fish and Wildlife agency prior to dumping your Christmas tree in the water. But yeah, it felt, I don't know if I can even really put my finger on exactly what it is, but it just felt like a miss.
Like at face value, it did not hit
should
right.
maybe like this, but I'm feeling weird about it.
Yeah.
And I think some of that comes from, it's kind of like I draw a similarity between some of the work done on our local trout streams in Wisconsin. I think the reputation, the popular reaction is like, well, they turned it into a golf course. And it kind of reeks of that, where it's like attempting to do the right thing to kind of feel good about ourselves, but really we're just dumping our Christmas trash into the water so that a couple of bluegills can have a home until the tree dies or floats downstream. Not to mention the cinder blocks that are involved.
In the name of social media and
That's what
and like short shelf life marketing campaign, I don't know if it hit right.
Is it better than nothing? Maybe. Is it really the standard we should try and hold ourselves to?
It's interesting. I mean, we're here talking about it.
We're here talking
about it. It did
about
something
it.
well
It
in
did.
that regard.
I guess we'll call it a win on the marketing. I think the jury's still out as to whether that's the best way for conservation, or whether or not it's even conservation. It kind of, I feel this a little bit in my work with like our fishing organization, our Muskies Inc. Is stocking fish and putting fish cribs in a lake, is that the job well done? We did it. We can go home. We're conservationists. I don't really think so.
I don't know. I think it's a never-ending debate.
Yeah, I don't know though. I think it's like, I think it needs more than that. I think it begs more than that. Easy to sit here and talk about it, but I think like the repercussions of how many people aren't going to hear the fine print of that message that says, hey, let's go to Fish and Wildlife and ask for permission. Like, even if 1 out of 4 just decides to bypass that, just dump their Christmas tree wherever. And I just know there's rules. Where can we put these cribs? At what depth of water? In systems where there's current, are they all just going to end up down at the dam? Lots of different questions. Again, I think overall, good intent. Their heart was probably in the right spot, but.
And we'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Go check out the campaign Yeti did recently and let us know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, much better than throwing a cooler in the bottom of the lake. But let us know your thoughts. Josh seems a little bit more optimistic. I'm a little bit more pessimistic about it. That's not too atypical around here. Next up, though, this one shook me a little bit to my core. I'm just going to be honest. Things might get emotional on the Spot Burn podcast.
Oh, I'm so glad we're talking about this.
I had to there needed to be some distance between the actual event and us being able to talk about it.
Good.
There's a little bit of trauma.
You've simmered down now a little bit?
I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to let it bubble right back up here. We're going to turn it up. So I'll tell the story a little bit and then we'll discuss, at least from my perspective.
Okay.
So this was the week after Christmas in the shop. Typically, we're really busy online at that time. There's a few folks kind of on holiday coming into the shop. Usually folks maybe that we haven't ever seen in the shop before. They're traveling. They're with their family in Madison for Christmas or the holidays and whatever. And 2 folks come into the shop. And, I think where this story is difficult for me personally is how my perspective first as it relates to anyone that walks into our store. We want to treat you with not only the utmost respect, but make sure you literally have one of the best moments of your day. Or week or month. You're coming to the fishing store, you're coming to Musky Fool. It's super important to us, just at a human level. And I think a girlfriend and boyfriend, middle-aged, from central Wisconsin. They come into the shop, and pretty clearly, we've seen a few. We've played this before. You can tell when someone comes into the shop and has no idea that this is a fly shop. They're just fishing, stoked. And I think right away they had said, they were on their way. They had questions about getting their bow repaired, their compound bow. And they might have thought we would help repair compound bows. Turns out we do not do any work in hunting or compound bows. But they saw the fishing sign and they just had to stop and they were excited. And we made some recommendations on where to go to get your bow strung up and who not to go to and who to go to. And then... The lady got really excited because she had a muskie she wanted to show me. And she said it, and I did not register the first time, but she said something about a muskie in a bathtub. And I think when I first heard it and my brain started to process, because I know where this can kind of go, you're about to get the Muskie story from them because you're the Muskie shop, but it turns out to be a pretty horrific Muskie story. So I'm picturing a dead muskie belly up in a bathtub, and you know it is what it is. It's a fish. They used to get eaten. Whatever. And she whips out her phone, and oh no, the reliving part's coming back. She whips out her phone and shows me a video of I'm gonna say 38 to 40-inch muskie in a bathtub swimming with the faucet on. And the fish looks rough. You can see the skin decomposing already, the whitening of like near the fins and the skin rot. And I'm kind of speechless at this point as I kind of let them talk about what's going on. And apparently what happened is they hooked a muskie on the shore in central Wisconsin. And it was on like 8-pound tests. They were fishing. They were kind of just like general conventional fishing. So small tackle, long fight. Fish comes in, and apparently, based on their judgment, it wasn't doing so hot. And at that moment, they thought the best thing to do was to take it home and try and revive it in their bathtub. I'm going to repeat that. They had a fish in a river, which is water, which is where the fish lives, and is where the fish was caught. And they decided the best thing to do was to take that fish home to a bathtub to revive it. So at this point, I am flustered is an understatement. I think what I am able to get out of my mouth without getting into a verbal altercation in the shop was, I think I said to her, I'd be really careful who you show that video to which she was surprised and said, oh, why? We were just trying to revive it. It was like a really innocent, like we were just trying to revive it, the muskie. And I kind of clued them into the fact that like just that video is illegal.
Yeah.
You know, assuming it wasn't a 40, 50-inch muskie, which would have been the minimum in that body of water. You want to shake them and just like, what are you doing? And I just don't know. I don't know. It kind of talking about it now, I feel a little bit more calm, but I think it's the state of affairs in Wisconsin. It's the state of affairs in a lot of other places than just Wisconsin. But I will not, for the time being, be able to get that image of that muskie still swimming. There is still a little life left in it, barely. And of course, it died and perished in the bathtub. But just like in the bathtub, and then I think to end it out, the gentleman sensed much sooner that I was not a fan of this video than the lady. She stuck around and thought this was fun. And he said, yeah, it turns out it's not really good to bring him home in the bathtub. The water's not good for him. Like it was the aha realization. So I don't know. I don't know if it was a complete overreaction, but I had a moment of being a little scarred by what is possible because your mind goes to so many bad places. Like if this is the one video I saw, what's happening to the other 12? And like,
yeah,
the thought process of, you know, anybody. I don't even know what to say, Josh.
What was the end game though? Like, let's say best case scenario, the muskie had lived and it had survived and made a full recovery. Now are you just gonna flush it down the toilet and hope it makes it back to the lake?
Oh my god!
How are they planning on releasing?
Put it in the back
fish?
of the truck. How did you even get it home alive still?
Yeah, yeah. So many other questions.
Yeah.
Like immediately as you were starting this story, I was like, well, their hearts are in the good place. They're in the right place. But
still kind of think they were, but like I think it's an example of where your heart can be in the right place and your brain is just off.
Yeah. You're just committing muskie murder.
Like what the fuck? Sorry. I mean, it. So yeah, tell us what you think, folks. I think, we're going to repeat it here. Muskies don't belong in bathtubs if you're trying to revive them.
Nope.
There's really never a reason for that. I can't think of any good reason for that. Here's what I did think. So, two things. I tried to explain to myself how this is possible. Other than pure ignorance, which is possible, I think drugs are possible based on the critters that were involved in this story. You know, you're just super out of your mind, tweaking out, thinking it's a good idea. I could follow how a tweaker kind of muskie ends up in the bathtub. And then the third one, I saw it the other day. I think it's like this like goldfish. Like we just like transport how we feel about goldfish onto all fish. And it's totally appropriate to put a goldfish in a little bag and bring it home and maybe throw it in the bathtub and the cat plays with it or eats it. And, you know, it's just a goldfish. Oh. But not with a muskie.
Well, clearly the messaging about catch and release isn't resonating with the lowest common denominator here.
That is an issue with that for sure. I know.
But I mean, at some point you're like, we can't go that low.
No.
You gotta use your own head here,
you do.
folks.
So pretty unbelievable. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Public service announcement again for the 4th or 5th time. Muskies don't belong in bathtubs. If you do have a fish that you are having issues with, we all hate to see it. The safest spot to revive it, turns out, is the body of water that you caught it in. You're in water usually. Usually when you catch muskies, most of the time you're in water.
100%.
Yeah. Keep it there. And honestly, even if it does, if you're certain it's going to perish or it's belly up and it's no longer kicking, if it's not a legal fish, leave it there. I think what I also tried to convey to these folks was just the mere fact of transporting that fish to revive it, you know, is illegal. Even if your heart was in the right place, you're not allowed to take a fish under the legal limit out of the body of water. It's that simple. So that's all. Couple more current events coming right up. I'm gonna pause, Josh. You
Yep.
getting that background? Is that Gabe or our mics?
I'm back here.
I think it's
Could
Gabe.
be the
That's
water.
fine. That's fine. As long as it's not that fuzzy on the mic.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. We're just doing a little sound check. We got a lot of stuff going on today at Musky Fool. As we mentioned earlier, getting ready for the trade shows coming up. We're also, as you know, or as you might not know, dye our own bucktail completely in-house. We'll probably have even more podcasts where we talk about it. But that's what you hear in the background right now. Gabe Park, the Musky Fool in-house specialist on bucktail, the Lord of the Dark Arts. He's back there going to town on some new bucktail. We just got back. Gabe and I were up. You know, we have to get all this tail. We have to sort it all. We have to hand pick it out, and that's a pretty crazy process. And we just got a whole new batch going into the dye pots, getting ready for the shows and for winter tying. But it's kind of fun. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to kind of convey how much goes into it. Because bucktail you could easily just go to your local taxidermist and get some bucktail, but if you really want the good bucktail and you know what you're looking for, I mean, Gabe and I spent a full day driving, full day sorting, grading, you know, discarding bucktail that didn't make the cut, and we probably went through 10,000 plus bucktails to come home with 10% of that. And then, you know, we're still grading it from there after it's dyed. So a lot of time goes into that. And I share that just because I think it's important to me. Like it's important to Gabe. It's important to Josh. Like this is, the bucktail, it matters so much. If we're going to do it to really give the best bucktail that we can possibly get our hands on. And it literally takes all of that effort. So, you know, bucktail sob story. But no, we enjoy the whole process. It's intensive, and we try to keep, it'd be really easy to slack and be like, yeah, just whatever, bucktail's a bucktail, but not the case at all. Gabe's got higher standards than me too, which are really good. Let's see, muskies in bathtubs. Oh God, muskies in bathtubs. A couple other things. We've had a lot of questions about musky Martian t-shirts, psychedelic hoodies. Really appreciate everybody loving the new designs. You can thank this guy right here for putting those together. You can also thank Gabe. Gabe was the brainchild on the Musky Martian. He came into work one day, and he had an aha moment, an epiphany, one might say.
Yeah, that was $1 million concept, as they say.
Yeah, and then it was like 24 hours later, you came back with version 1, and I don't even think we made any changes. It was just like, yeah, perfect.
That's it.
Yeah.
Put it on a hoodie. Put it on a t-shirt.
I know. I can't believe it's like, yeah, it's so appropriate. Turns out there's also like a Venn diagram of people into Alien Area 51 conspiracies and people that musky fish.
100%.
And there's a lot of overlap in that crowd.
Yes.
I don't know what that exactly says about all of us, but it sure says something.
The alien conspiracy make the best musky anglers.
Make the best musky anglers.
By far.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. It's cool to see that design being so well received. It's a cool one.
Yeah. And then the psychedelic hoodie, that's been another favorite. That was Jen and I were in a taco spot in Lexington, Kentucky.
Ooh.
This spring, and I think we were texting Josh ferociously pictures and images. It was a very, very funky taco spot.
Oh, agave and rye.
Yeah, I remember that. And we were like, dude, I don't know what it is about this place, but it has a musky vibe. We gotta.
Yeah.
That kind of started the genesis of the psychedelic musky. But yes, more sizes are coming. We have them on order. We will be keeping that one in because it's been a hot favorite. So just wanted to call that out since we do get so many questions on it. Other current event, since we're really not shying away, we talked about Yeti's conservation effort. We talked about muskies and bathtubs. Why do I even have to say those words in a fucking sentence? Muskies and bathtubs. We're going to transition into fishing conditions in December, but I think before we do that, one thing related to fishing conditions that always seems to pop up late in the season, and I think was especially kind of an interesting topic this season, is ice fishing for muskies. So overall, as far as Wisconsin goes, we're not going to comment on any other areas because it does differ, but in Wisconsin, it is legal to target muskies up until December 31st.
Correct.
Hard water, wet water, you name it. Once December 31st hits, no more targeting muskies. So it begs two questions. One, is it worthwhile pursuit? What do we think about ice fishing for muskies? It's definitely, a topic with strong opinions. And then two, once the season's over, when they're out of season, I think that's when you start to see the folks catching them and posting about it and talking about it. So I don't know. I might just be in a grumpy theme this with all this musky bathtub talk, but I've never really, frankly, understood ice fishing for muskies. Mm-hmm. You ice fish a lot more than I do. I haven't ice fished in years, but it just doesn't compute. Like, it's not a fish we eat. It's a fish that, like, for the most part, the thrill of the chase, the action, the fight, the landing, I just can't even, fathom sitting over a hole ice fishing for muskies. It just seems like a total fool's errand. And then the purpose, I don't understand it. So maybe I'm missing something. Is there, or do you feel similarly? Like, what? Yeah, it's a catch and release fish. I don't get why we're ice fishing for it.
You're game fishing through the ice, essentially. You're not planning on keeping that fish, I wouldn't think. At least, I don't know. It's weird to me. I've been ice fishing my entire life, and I've never gone out and specifically target them through the ice. We've gotten a couple over the years by virtue of bycatch, but
right.
I've never once said.
Common.
You're right. Like, there's this. It's so much more fun, like the aspect of going out and hunting them versus setting up a bunch of tip-ups on a weed edge or a drop-off and hoping we're going to land a 29-inch muskie that day through the ice. I don't know. I mean, it's legal.
Up until a point.
Up until a point.
And then just January 1st, it becomes not legal in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. It does seem hard on the fish, though.
It does. I mean, they got cold water temps, and Josh and I are not fishery biologists. I'm sure they'll have an opinion on this, but it's not, to me, it's not a matter of science. It's just a matter of, like, the simple right thing. Why is it a conversation? You can target anything you want through the ice. And then it kind of becomes like, it seems like when they get caught through the ice, it's not being caught by musky anglers. So it becomes this like, oh my gosh, we caught him. It's a muskie. And then all of a sudden it's just the chaos. You have small tackle, you have cold water, you have 40-inch fish flopping around on the surface. They don't fit through the hole. And it just...
Yeah, at least with open water season, like, you can lean over the boat and deal with that fish when they're in a huge bag, a nice environment, plenty of room to work with. But oftentimes, I would assume if you're dealing with a muskie above the ice, you got to put them somewhere. And they're probably going to either happen to fall on the ice or get all over your clothes and then Their slime is going off their skin. It seems like it's really hard on that fish.
Especially if they're coming out into the air temps that are really cold. Mm-hmm. They're covered in water. Like we talk about this with trout, literally, in terms of not getting them out of the water when it's cold. And again, none of these things matter if you're going to kill the fish and eat it, but that's not what we're talking about. It's muskies. Mm-hmm. So, again, probably it's it wouldn't be appropriate to say this is a message falling on deaf ears, because I would reckon most of the people that are listening to this podcast, all 4 of you, musky fish, and don't tend to put a lot of weight on musky fishing through the ice. But I think it's one of those things where it'd be really good if we could just not do that. Mm-hmm. Seems like we almost just that's not cool. No one, and I think we're going to see a bunch of photos and videos we do every spring where someone's like, oh, muskies, you guys like to catch muskies. Yes, I do. I love muskies. And then they're like, check out this fish that I caught last year through the ice. And you're just like, it's not that cool. Mm. Just stop that.
Yeah.
Just cut it out. Just psh, 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 psh.
Just wait till the season opens again. Come on.
Yeah. That's also probably what it is they come to you with the ice fishing for muskies stories as you're literally sitting on the sidelines with the shack nasties in the middle of winter, and you're just you're a little grumpy just to waking up in the morning, let alone, at noon 30 when you get the first ice fishing for muskie. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. We'll move on to more fun things like catching muskies. So we mentioned earlier, really, really warm winter. We looked like it was going to be a normal winter, Thanksgiving time frame, and then it just stayed warm for long, like above 40. You guys in Eau Claire, the rivers are still not frozen.
No.
And we're well into January.
Not really a shred of ice on the shoreline even at this point. Probably by the end of this week, we're going to start seeing a little bit more ice, and I think the bottom's going to drop out. But this is totally unprecedented. I think Gabe and I, a couple years ago, the latest I've ever fished in Wisconsin was December 16th, and it was cold. We were pushing a hooligan raft over 10 inches of snow over an ice shelf just to get in the river. But for this to, we're going out there with a soft shell on. Sometimes our lightweighters even in December. It's crazy.
And all the way to the end. You were,
the way.
We'll talk about it, but you caught a muskie on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Which we have been in the southern zone. It's not as uncommon. December 16th, we did a New Year's Eve. It's not uncommon. But all the way up to you guys in northern Wisconsin, that's pretty nuts. So I guess first, one angle here is I noticed with the way I approach December and typically in what you guys did in December, a lot of hooligans. Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason you like those or we like those as the season gets later and the conditions get harsher? Logically, it's kind of the big comfy boats, but there's kind of a reason for that. What is that a little bit?
Well, it's not as complex as one would think. It's just a virtue of I don't have that much room in my driveway and garage, so I got to get one of the boats out of there. And typically it's the big boat, so I can park in the driveway again because alternate side parking starts and blah, blah, blah. So usually I ditch that one late November or early December. But man, I was kicking myself in the butt. Come late December, I was thinking, I wish I had my jet boat still. Yeah, because we could run all over the place. But also, the other element to using hooligans versus the jet is everything's just so much harder in December in these colder temperatures.
That's what I was getting at, exactly.
Yeah. So having the hooligan and the simplicity of it all is it's
low
great.
Failure. You're not worried about motors not turning over, water in your gas lines,
yes,
electronics freezing up, batteries dying, and none of that.
Yes. It's so much harder on boats this time of year. So I think that's why we've always leaned towards the rafts, and then it has been fun to get out on some of these smaller rivers late season too.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's part of it too. Why they always seem to come back into the fold is because the water that's going to be open and the most fishable later in the season's usually got current. It's usually a river. Mm-hmm. We're usually not going very far. So I guess we could talk about that. How did you? Actually, let's take a step back. Talk to me about just the December high level success. And then I want to hear you break that down a little bit because I think the pattern you guys were following is a pretty good one. The general pattern of what to do in late fall, winter, frankly, kind of came true. And the way you approached it is like, we've talked about it on the podcast. We've talked about it before, but it actually, it works.
Yep.
And you guys kind of executed that perfectly. So beginning of December, where you at? You guys are basically kind of making decisions on where the fishing is going to take place. But then you kind of find the honey hole.
Yep.
And what does that look like in terms of type of spot on the river? Big water, small water, deep water. What were you guys finding? Pretty
much high level for this time of year is you just want to go to places that are familiar and that you know very well, and hopefully you've had data points from previous years and previous seasons, and you've seen fish get caught in certain spots. So you just got to trust that process and know that they're going to be there. And we stuck to our guns, and we wanted to go fish other water, but we just knew that these spots had a high percentage shot of producing. And sure enough, man, 2 spots in particular.
Over and over again were the producers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I think there was one outing we didn't see a single fish, but other than that, we caught at least one muskie.
Every single time.
Every time we went out. Yep. So what we're looking for typically is really slow moving water that's adjacent to like a drop off, or like a big rock shelf or something like that. The spots that we found them historically this time of year have had those conditions.
What do you think drives? I mean, I think what I'm trying to get at too is like it's a little bit more nuanced than just find the deepest water. Mm-hmm. But that's a good start.
Yep. Nick and I had this conversation recently too, that there's probably checkpoints throughout every river system. So some people say, the muskies retreat all the way back to the lake or all the way up to the dam. That's probably not necessarily true. They're probably retreating to the nearest deep hole, which we call the checkpoint, and they're going to spend their winter there because a lot of bait fish are heading there too. So when you start thinking in that regard, you can kind of pinpoint on your river system where you need to start targeting your activity in late season. You only have so many hours in the day. The days are shorter.
Yep.
It's a lot colder in the morning. It gets really cold in the afternoon. So the amount of time you're physically able to fish at your best are very limited. So you got to maximize that time on the water, especially this time of year.
How does that go? So in the beginning of the month, as you guys, you're going to spots that which again is I recommend as well. Like, it's not the time to go explore new water. Mm-hmm. You can do what you want, of course, but in terms of percentage success. And it also seems like, if you're on a system that has muskies throughout, and there's, half a dozen to 10 of these checkpoints, fish holding areas, at least for this time of year, they're not always in all of them.
No.
And they're not always in the same one they were last year. It's a little bit of kind of finding them. But then once you do find them and you get some stable weather, which despite it being unseasonably warm, December was pretty stable.
Yes.
They seem to just hunker down and stay there, and you're coming back and finding fresh fish, new fish in the same spots as the prior fishing outing.
Yep.
But it wasn't, by New Year's Eve, you guys knew exactly where you were going, exactly what you were doing.
Yes.
There wasn't a lot of room. We didn't need the wiggle room.
Yep, exactly, Dano. And like you said, those checkpoints change from year to year. Like the 2018 season, those fish were in a completely different spot than I've seen them since. And it was because of the consistent water flows that year that were 2,000 to 4,000 CFS higher than what we've experienced these last couple years. So now all of those checkpoints have switched. And you dial that stuff in, you dial all that information in throughout the season, and you get intel from your fishing buddies, or, you hear whatever's going on the river. And you just make a very calculated decision this time of year of where to go.
And we've said that before, but just worth reiterating, I think there's 2 main factors that drive that big change in fishing behavior. Time of day. You don't have a lot of hours in the day, and your temperatures are low. And the fish are just so congregated compared to peak summer, where They're spread out. You have a long day. You're looking for active fish. You're trying to cover water. That's not the recommended strategy late in the season. Physically, it just gets harder to do, but also you're much better off working spots thoroughly. And I guess kind of going to one of those outings and stories, like the last one, I think, New Year's Eve, was an exact example of that. You knew where to go. You guys had caught fish there already a couple days before, but you show up and nothing's going on. In a summer mentality, or I'm searching for active fish, that might lead people to go find new spots. And you guys didn't do that. And part of that was the confidence that you just had. And we know they're there, but you had to do what? Talk me through a little bit of what you guys end up doing. Not like a major change, but I think that moment of no, we're going to stay here.
Yeah. This whole conversation is so much fun because, like Dan was saying earlier, you come up with these theories and these game plans, and for them to actually come to fruition for you.
King of the castle.
So amazing. Yeah, I loved every minute of it. Yeah, so the last day of the year, New Year's Eve, we go to the spot. We know for a fact that there's fish in here. We don't have any electronics on our boat because we're in hooligans, but we just know they're there. We make a run through this one section. We're a little bit closer to the bank on the first run. We beat the crap out of it and nothing, not a peep. It was very odd. We had just boated 4 or 5 muskies there the last 3 outings. So Jake, I think, was the one that said, hey, I think we should shift out a little bit further into the channel and bump off. Yeah, fish more of that second shelf. And sure enough, those fish, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a little bit of fluctuation in water flows or temperatures or whatever, but they came off of that shelf just a little bit more, and we boated a really nice low 40s muskie right there.
Yep.
So big props to Jake.
Had you caught any fish in that spot that were on the first break? Like the run you did the first time, you had success with in previous outings?
Yeah, the previous 3 outings, which were all within the last 2 weeks of New Year's Eve.
They were, and that's what I think I was getting at is sometimes they're there, and on any given Sunday, whether it's water temps, whether it's pressure change, moon, those fish are going to slide up shallow or onto structure. Oftentimes we'll see wood and rocks kind of warm up in the sun and provide some warmth. But sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes they're hunkered down or they're backed off a break or backed off a current line, more mid-river. Mm-hmm. But they're still hanging out in the area.
Yeah, that general vicinity is just something in your loins that says, you got to stay here.
Yep.
And just try it. Yeah, like you're saying, slide off a little bit, try some new stuff.
What about did you notice any trends in December, late season? I always find that the bite window becomes very predictable, but can be very short. Did you guys see or notice any of that, where when you went to the same spot the next day, the bite window was very similar, or was there some change going on there?
So yeah, the bite window seemed very small, and the location that we pinpointed seemed to have the only active fish that we could find throughout December. So I think there was only one outing where we hit a major in the morning. Otherwise, the rest of the majors were all in the afternoon. So we were primarily fishing this spot because it's early in the float in the morning on a minor. So the first time it popped off, it was literally within 2 minutes of that minor starting, we boated the first fish. And then we landed it, made another lap, and then about 7 to 10 minutes later, got another one. And didn't see another fish the entire day. Yep.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be how the rest of the outings went in late December. They were very specific to that minor.
Yep. And it just goes back to that. It's like the spot on the spot matters this time of year, and the window so much. Mm-hmm. Lucking into them doesn't happen. That being said, I think that's the challenge changes a little bit, right? Where you know where they are, you kind of know when they're going to bite, and now it's just like feeding, just kind of doing it. And it might not happen, right? They're muskies. It's not that perfect or predictable, but the degrees of predictability seem to inch up a little bit in a certain regard late season. but they just, they can. It's never as good as you want. Just when you think you got it, they usually change something up.
Yep.
So, what were some other things that stood out about the December fish? I think another thing that was interesting was, from my perspective, just in general, between you, Gabe, myself, Nick, the rest of the guys, not a ton of late season giants. And we're not trying to do that, but it's just a data point of like not even a lot of encounters with them. And it just kind of makes you think. We know they're in these systems, whether it's lakes, rivers, whatever we're fishing. And this is usually when they come out to play, and there wasn't a whole lot of that. A lot of great fishing, though. Great fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. All the fish we encountered this late season were probably in that upper 20s to low 40-inch range. We just couldn't find one of those really big mamas to come out and play.
Tim got a 40, his PB. Tim got a nice mid-40s. Nick got a 42. But yeah, no 4-footers, frankly.
No.
So we'll save those for next year, I guess. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, all those fish are really nice fish for this time of year. It's so fun to catch a 40-incher in December.
Muskie, especially in December, no doubt about it. Especially on December 31st. First New Year's Eve muskie.
But what usually makes burying the cold so worthwhile is you do encounter those fish of a lifetime.
It's at least in your head as to why you're going through it all. But yeah, if you don't get your PB this year, at least you got your first New Year's Eve muskie.
Yes.
Pretty sweet.
So stoked.
What about fly selection? And I know there's a bunch of different people catching fish, perhaps fishing a little bit differently. So like fly selection, line and depth, I think would be some interesting areas for you to talk about. Relates to kind of the December muskies.
Sure. Yeah. We had a good amount of success on black and orange as usual.
That means Josh caught all the muskies on black and orange double Bufords from Urban Fly.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're the best fly on the planet.
He's on a mission to prove that is the only musky fly you need, and he's actually well on his way to showing that to be the case.
But this is like one of the first years, though, that I started using the dragon tail version.
Yep.
And I did see there were days where the dragon tail got it done, where the normal one did not get it done. So that was interesting feedback from the season.
On the rivers, too, because we had talked about that previously on lakes, and you were just like, I don't know, I don't see it on the rivers, and then it was working this year.
Boom.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, biggest guide client fish came on a dragon tail this year, too.
Nice.
Gliders.
Dragon tails.
Two really big fish that I would consider big for this season, 40, 42. They both came on gliders. And very slow.
Same with Nick and Tim's.
Yep. All gliders.
Glide style flies, bigger profiles.
Yeah.
Not all the same fly, but we're using glider kind of ubiquitously at that point. But yes.
To give you an idea of how slow one of the muskies ate was, the guy that I will make anonymous, he was untangling his fly line while this muskie ate. That's how slow that presentation was.
Just dead swinging. Didn't you have another one reeling up? What did you call it? A Monica?
Monica Rielinski. Yeah.
Monica Rielinski.
Now that's another part of what was weird about this season is so we had those encounters that were really, really slow, dredging the bottom. And then we had a couple encounters where we're just ripping flies. So Jake, what Dan is referring to, the Monica Rielinski, he was just reeling his fly line up because we were moving spots, and boom. That muskie just
here's the deal with Jake. Jake has been wanting a Monica Rielinski all season. So whenever you fish with him, he's been intentionally tempting fate out there. And on the last day of the season, fate bit.
Yeah. I don't know if you would classify that as true fly fishing, but he did make a fly cast initially.
Fly line, check. Fly on the end of the fly line, check. Fly rod, check. I think it counts.
Yeah. We're definitely giving it to him.
Hook in mouth. That's like, it counts. The muskie ate his fly. Harling. He wasn't doing anything to the fly, probably, which is the maddening part. Because you're just like, where am I supposed to, like, what do I do with this information now?
Yeah.
Just cast my fly out there and let it sit? It turns out it works.
That fly was bombing straight downstream,
Hilarious.
doing nothing. But yeah, other than that, a lot of intermediate lines. The Cortland Sink 4, and then the guys throwing the
big
two-handy
two-handers.
rods. Yeah, they're throwing that Cortland 700 grain.
I will say that line surprised me. I think my favorite learning from this fall, outside of fishing but related to, was the Scientific Angler's Launchpad has now become, like, not even a shameless plug. It has become one of the most important things in my boat.
Really?
Dude, dead serious.
I've never used one, and I got to get on this train.
Like, there is no way I would have been able to cast that Cortland. I have the 50 plus. We just got it in 50 plus 700 grain. It's a saltwater line, so the running line is like, what does Gabe call it? The weed whacker string. I mean, the stuff is curly as ever, stiff as ever, terrible. Like, you wouldn't even dream of casting that in 36 degrees. You got a launch pad, you can do it all day long.
Really?
Not a single tangle.
Really?
And you and I have been in some moments with some of those lines this summer where we're about to strangle each other, our own selves. Like, it's like unbearable.
Yes.
As long as it ends up in that launch pad,
Dang.
it is not getting tangled.
Oh man.
I know.
Yeah, I gotta
Kinda blew
test
my
drive
mind.
one of those.
So $199 ain't cheap for a big piece of silicone, but it is like mental happiness, peace, extra fishing, whatever keeps us fishing longer. So if you haven't checked those out, they are sweet. We're big fans. What do we got? December muskies. I think we covered most of the high points. I mean, the theme for sure is spot on the spot, work your milk run. Be confident in that. Spend your time in the early December, late November, finding that spot, and then really don't leave it. That's when you start trying different stuff like Josh is talking about, burning them slow, big, small, bumping out to the second shelf. Same shit applies to lakes too. This is no different. Inside out versus, casting at the weeds. Bumping off a cast length, but we're not going very far. We don't have time, and it's not worth it. The fish are very, very specifically located this time of year.
Yep.
Just a matter of finding them. Easier said than done. If you got any questions on that, though, fishing December, for those that are going to be fishing in the southern areas where muskie is still open, and that kind of goes into this winter mindset in some of the deeper water. Whether it's gear selection, there's a lot of similarities to what we're doing up here in December. So feel free to reach out. We're here to help. Let's round out a little bit talking about, I think 2023, just like if there was anything, it felt like a blur of a year. It's over. Turns out it's 2024. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Anything stand out for 2023? Highlights, lowlights?
Oh man, I love every season, but this one was truly one of my favorite seasons. The people that we met were just fantastic. I just have so many of these awesome memories of these group trips we did at Tom's. The Matt Ladra crew. And
they were fun.
Yeah,
they were fun.
Things like that. It's just so enjoyable to meet all these people and become fast friends. And it's sad when they leave, but you hope they come back someday and stay in touch. But last couple of years, low water conditions, learning all sorts of new tricks, really expanding the skill set and thinking outside the box. It's been fun.
What, any lowlights? Any things you wish you went differently? Missed opportunities, missed fish? Is there a fish that's haunting you from 2023?
No fish that was haunting me. Not
you're the Tiger King this year, though, a little bit.
Yes, I got 3 tiger muskies this year.
All natural wild tigers too. Yep. Those are not stock tigers. Yeah.
One of them was gorgeous. It looked like a mackerel. It had a very blue iridescent back. It was very cool.
Yeah, it was so weird. What was going on there? It was like every time you went fishing, it was like, oh, Josh caught another tiger. Yeah. And these are rare in these bodies of water.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So those are always fun when they show up. The unicorn amongst unicorns. And I guess there was one trip in particular that was a big bummer. It was a smallmouth trip, and the guy could really cast, and the smallmouth
couldn't bite.
No.
Fuckers.
Bueno. And that's tough. Like, the expectation is that we are going to stack up 10 to 25. We just talked about this with Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough.
How about you, Dano?
Oh, let's see.
Walk us through your season here.
2023. Well, I had a child, so that was probably the highlight of my life so far and my 2023 season. Lucy is amazing. So she's almost 6 months now. So that's just been an incredible change in all the right ways and all different ways you would never expect. Definitely had an impact on fishing. I think I was like kind of in a freak out mode prior to her being born of like, I'm never going to go fishing again. So I have to fish any second that's possible, even if it totally doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And like, it was definitely like the desire, like I just wanted it. I wanted to get it all in. And that just like, whenever that creeps into my fishing mentality, it never, like if you want it too much, it just like backfires. Mm-hmm. So that was hilarious because it was like super rough despite the hours, and I was fishing harder than I was any season before. And it was just like rough spring. Lucy's born and immediately just start catching muskies, which was kind of hilarious because I literally was like more nonchalant about it than I'd ever been. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of goes to. So that was the general theme. I think my highlight was probably two trips. I think the one that you and I took right after. I remember because Jen we had just had Lucy. She's about a month old, and we're starting to get back to normal. And we're like, oh my God, it's already like almost September. And, we need some, like, I haven't musky fished in 2 months. So Jen kind of like had this like, well, you need to go. I think she was like, you need to go. We need musky content. And I was like, not even interested at all in that. I was just focused on like, you're right. I need to go fishing. You and I headed up to northern Wisconsin, and that was a pretty fun weekend. Mm-hmm. We'll hopefully be able to post that video soon. And then Treelands with Gabe, with you and Jake too, but Gabe and I were a team. And we took second. We talked about that on a podcast. That was a lot of fun. Kind of was probably the pinnacle moment for me this year of just like, you always lay all these elaborate plans of where you're going to be, how you're going to do it. And 99% of the time it doesn't come true because muskies are muskies. But when it does, you feel superhuman. It feels like a superpower. And Gabe and I had a little bit of that, when we show up on the first day of a tournament on a body of water we know, but we haven't fished. And within minutes, we have muskies all around us. You're like, oh, my God.
Yep.
Wow. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about. I'm not an asshole.
You got to just trust the process sometimes.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. No, so we had a lot of fun. I love that weekend. I love where it is. I love when it is. I love, all the people that came out to it. It was a big group. We got to hang out and crash that Airbnb. Mm-hmm. Grant Meyer made a special appearance in the wee hours of the night.
Oh, boy.
He made it home. Yeah. So that was probably my highlights. I was trying to think of what else happened this year. It felt like a big old blur.
Keys Outdoors?
Oh, dude. How do we forget about that? Yeah, that one. I think they just did their first episode of the new season.
Yes, correct.
So there'll be an episode coming up. We went on an adventure. I think our goal, I don't know if Mike will talk about it in the episode, but our goal, and Mike asked to go fishing with us again. The first time we took him out, it was kind of like, okay, well, you want to go camping and you want to fly fish and you want to float down a river. We'll kind of give you the old country buffet style version of that, you know. And then I think the second time we got our wheels started turning a little bit more. Yeah, we're like, what if we just went somewhere we had never been before? Like
nobody,
none of us knew a single lick of anything about it. And that sounds like a great idea on paper, of course, and I think it did. And then as we got closer, it was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, a lot of anxiety building.
We're going to drive all that way to all that place to bring all that equipment to maybe not even see a muskie. This is a terrible idea. But, of course, we were already up there at the Airbnb. There's no backing out. And then we showed up the first day, and I will never forget I think Nick just came off a long guide season. He hadn't fished in 2 months, so we gave Nick the front of the front boat. And I think he was like, big one, big one, big one. 10 casts into the day. So there's a lot of fish stories that come out of that, but we had quite the trip. That was a good memory. Yeah, you guys will have to go check that one out as it launches. Musky's season, who knows how many, 25, 26? The guy's an animal, dude. We got to get him on the podcast because he doesn't come through in his TV persona how much of an animal he is.
Yeah. I don't know many grandfathers of 10 that are still out there sleeping in their boats.
Fuck no. He makes all of us look like fucking wimps, dude. He's just out there 100 miles an hour all the time, never tired, I'm like, I'm a little cold. You know? Catching muskie. He's caught a muskie every year. He's got the biggest muskie every year. You know, casts for like an hour. He's just an animal. I love that fella.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Remembered his cigarettes this time too. That was important.
Crucial to the mission.
Way smoother sailing. Way smoother sailing. Remember your cigarettes and no camping. Those are my recommendations.
Yes. Well, along the lines of, I'm going to segue now a little bit.
Segue.
Okay. So along the lines of recapping and reflecting on this season, what are your hopes for next season, Dan?
That's a lovely question, Josh. What are my hopes for next season? To catch more muskies than this season.
Okay.
To catch a big muskie. Those are always my hopes.
What do you classify as a big muskie?
57.5 or bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that
Anything
range.
less than that, and I will be utterly dissatisfied with myself.
Okay.
So talk to me in a year, and I'll be utterly dissatisfied with myself.
Hopefully you have a giant bathtub to put that one in.
Dude, too soon, man.
All right, and we're back after a technical difficulty, folks. Thanks for staying with us. So,
this episode is not sponsored by GoPro, turns out.
No. We were discussing Dan's outlook for the 2024 season here.
I would say generally pretty positive. I think I have an optimistic goal to go fishing with Jen and Lucy because that would be very special. I think Jen, I know, wants to go fishing because it turns out being pregnant and having a baby takes away from that. So it's been quite a bit there. There's a couple trips that I'm hoping we can get nailed down that I'm excited for. We're trying. We've tried before and we haven't done it, but we're trying to put together a Canada trip for the summer. You obviously know about this. So shameless plug for anybody that wants to host us in Canada on a musky lake, either Lake of the Woods, Rowan Lake, or Eagle Lake. We take good photos, good videos, and we're a really fun time. Oddly enough, I am probably right now looking the most forward to trout season. Opens on Saturday, January 6th. I kind of glossed over it last spring because we were still really busy getting the shop. It was like the first spring in the shop. Mm-hmm. It was really just Gabe and I at the shop, so we hadn't like hired Tim yet, and we were doing a lot of things. So I'm pretty much. I think I had this conversation with Gabe yesterday. We're both kind of pretty excited. He has a child coming in March, so he's got a limited window. But early season trout. And just getting back after it and kind of getting back into the swing of things is definitely exciting me. I think you and I have got some trips planned and want to do some trout videos. And there's a couple different spots we want to go fish, a couple fish patterns we're targeting. But I think that's probably like that, the kind of musky travel calendar. And I'm also just excited it's 2024 and Musky Fool hired a new full-time employee. I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to work out, though. He's a little bit odd. He goes by Bam Bam. People call him Bam Bam.
He's kind of a goofball sometimes.
Yeah. No, jokes aside, the cat's out of the bag. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. 2024, talk a little bit about coming on to Musky Fool. Tell folks what that's been about and what you're looking forward to there. And
oh, man.
Yeah, what's your year going to look like?
Well, I mean, beyond catching another 57, 58-inch muskie like Dan, I thought I achieved minimum. I definitely had one big goal, and that was to be more involved with Musky Fool come 2024. So here we are.
The full Monty.
The full Monty, achieved that goal. I'm so excited. There's so much cool stuff going on at the shop and with Musky Fool in general. it's just a great community, great culture to be a part of. So I look forward to seeing what the job brings in this next year, because there's so many exciting things happening.
Yeah. It feels really surreal. It feels like exactly the surreal when Gabe first joined. And it just quickly started to, become more and more real as he put his mark on the company. Excited. You've obviously been kind of secretly working with us for a while,
Yep.
like all the way back to the grand opening and the website relaunch. But now it's full-time, licensed to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see a lot more Bam Bam in the background doing all sorts of crazy Bam Bam tricks, and in the foreground, blowing people's minds with musky Martians and psychedelic muskies and all sorts of stuff. And we're going to get to do some cool projects. We've definitely heard a lot of feedback from the customers about more video. How are we casting two-hand rods, tying flies, and how are we, doing all of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast. So we got a couple. We're getting started. You've seen us launch a couple, getting our feet wet, getting used to the new format. We got a couple more that were coming out, and then a couple some good stories to tell from the 2023 season. So that'll be sweet. What else you got going on 2024? Are you coming to Canada with us?
I'm going to try to come to Canada. I'm putting at the top of the priority list.
There you have it, folks. Just another plug for that Canada Lodge.
Lake of the Woods.
To go host
Eagle Lake.
some very, we clean up after ourselves. I don't know if we need to pitch this more, but I'm starting to feel like we do.
We're very nice drinking people when we drink. So
And only some of us drink. If you're not into that, we can be sober and fun too. So
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, Dan. Yeah.
I think that I wanna win Treelands with Gabe.
Yeah.
Now that him and I were so close.
Not if Jake and I have anything to say about it.
I would happily stand next to you on the podium, fella. I will happily. Yes, I would love
just
that.
kidding.
You probably, old Bam Bam probably deserves a little top 3 finish there. Yeah,
It's never happened. I was stoked that you guys got in the top 2, but like I say every year, I've never seen a team get in the top 3 2
back
consecutive
to back.
years.
Nope, it's a tough tournament. That's what's fun about it. It's we've talked about it here, but it's tough. It's fun. It's lighthearted, but can be serious. Gabe and I definitely liked the competition of it. It was a good, healthy dose of it, and then also to not do it again. I think you and I will probably fish one more tournament, the Madison PMTT. There's a couple other ones. There's a tournament kind of up and coming, I think is on the books for February in Kentucky, the Kentucky River Classic, hosted by the Muskies Inc. chapter down there. Don't know if we're going to make it down. We're definitely going to help out and sponsor, and it'll be a pretty sweet group of folks that go down there. I hope to make it down one day, especially that there's a February, tournament.
Yeah, that's
You got
very
Beast
exciting.
again, so there's a lot. We haven't finalized everything, but we'll definitely be doing something. We just got to get through trade shows first. Trade shows and trout.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anything else, fella?
That's it.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in. This was a smorgasbord of topics today. We talked about muskies and bathtubs. I want to hear your thoughts. React loudly. We talked about Josh's late fall, December muskie fishing success and a lot more. Big shout out to our sponsors, Cortland, Stealthcraft Boats. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody listening, tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, liking, subscribing, commenting, sending us feedback, sending us hate mail. We appreciate all of it. Keep it coming. Until next time.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Spot Burn Podcast. Coming to you from the dungeon, this podcast is presented by Musky Fool Fly Fishing Co. We want to thank our awesome sponsors, Cortland Line Company and Stealthcraft Boats. We also want to thank all of you, our listeners, for tuning in, subscribing, sharing, and spreading the good word. If you haven't heard, go check us out at muskyfool.com. Have fun out there on the water, y'all.